Flynn tweets again. AG Barr is going to have a town hall meeting, a virtual one, of course. And then we're going to talk a little bit about a case that's going on in court right now involving someone I'm going to refer to as SR. I'm going to cover the bill that Ilhan Omar and her little gang have put together with the goal of pretty much taking over private property. So stick with me, folks. We got a lot to talk about. Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and General Flynn has tweeted yet again. This is the retweet that President Trump did, so here it is. There's not really sound to it, but just a little ambient sound there. And this is what he posted. Very 17th letter of the alphabetish, isn't it? So anyway, I wanted to show that. And yes, President Trump did retweet it. And there's several others he's been talking about. I mean, he's posted 3 or 4 in a row about Flynn. So I'm anxious to see what happens when all of this is cleared up and Flynn is finally exonerated completely. So then I wanted to show you this because John Solomon tweeted, "Playing games." Very coincidental, isn't it? Download and read the explosive FBI Russia case notes expressing concern about the Bureau's treatment of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Well, here's the actual document. And if you take the link on here, he does have a link to his article, but pretty much the article is just a link to this document. And so you can go through and they have potential cues for the DD's call. And you know, these are things that you should consider, and because they think this is what Flynn's probably going to be saying. So do you have responses prepared? Am I in trouble? Am I the subject of an investigation? Is it a criminal investigation? Is it an espionage investigation? Do I need an attorney? Do I need to tell Priebus? Because remember, Rance Priebus at the time was the chief of staff, if I recall correctly, and the president. Or will you tell Priebus or the president? I thought it was kind of interesting when I first read this because I thought, they think he might be worried that they would tell Priebus or the president or the White House what kinds of things he was conveying to them. And that to me says they were thinking he's going to give us some dirt on President Trump. I really think that's what they anticipated, that there was a possibility he might do that. But he wouldn't, of course. But these 2 questions right here kind of indicate to me that maybe they were thinking like that. And so then what happens to the information? Who will you tell? And these are just things that they were already getting set up. And look at this. Thanks, Pete. Guess who Pete is? Yeah, good old Peter Strzok. So we know that. And then it comes down here. And the policy they're talking about, here's the policy. This is the first email. I have a question for you. Could the admonition regarding 1001 be given at the beginning of the interview? And that evidently is where they say, remember, it is a crime to lie to the FBI. And so they're wondering, does it have to be given at the beginning of the interview, or does it have to come following a statement which agents believe to be false? Does the policy speak to that? I feel bad that I don't know this, but I don't remember ever having to do this. Plus, I've only charged it once in the context of lying to a federal probation officer. It seems to be if the former, then it would be an easy way to just casually slip that in. Of course, as you know, sir, federal law makes it a crime too. Yeah, and that was from Lisa Page. So to Peter Strzok, to someone and Peter Strzok. And then the response to that was, I haven't read the policy lately, but if I recall correctly, you can say it at any time. I'm 90% sure about that, but I can check in the AM. So they were plotting to set him up. And then down here we have this was the question that she asked. It just fit in better up there. And then we have the written ones here, and it's a little hard to see on here, but if you would bump it up big enough, you probably could. Anyway, I will leave this document down below and you can see it for yourself. But this is basically where they said, so exactly what are we trying to do here? Let me bump it up just a little bit more, see if you can see it. And so what's the goal? What's our goal? Truth, admission, or to get him to lie so we can prosecute him or get him fired. Yeah. So see, that really is what they were trying to do. And in the Fox report, one of the Fox reports today that came out, and I'm recording this on Wednesday, they mentioned this was written by Bill Priestap. So that's whose handwriting that is, evidently. Yeah, it was Priestap. So he's the one, according to this particular video. And yep, they're getting all these documents out. So you can go through. If you can't read all that, they're, they kind of help you out a little bit here with it. But anyway, so there's that article. I'll put all these down below just like usual. You can read them if you want to. Sidney Powell responded to a Technofog post here. Credit to all these fine folks for their hard work getting all this information out. And she says, and much gratitude to AG Barr, Mr. Jensen, and likely Mr. Durham. I think it's very interesting that she posted about Durham and team for having the integrity and fortitude to search for the truth and bring it to light. The truth will set him free. And thanks to millions of Americans who have supported us with prayers and more. So I thought that was really interesting there too, that she not only mentioned Barr, but also Durham. Very interesting. And then this is a blast from the past. This came out on May 24th, 2019. And there was one FBI lawyer who said some things that probably could get the rest of them in trouble. This was when Doug Collins was releasing all these transcripts. And he released this one. And her name was Trisha Anderson. There she is. And guess what? She went back to work at Covington and Burling in 2018. So yeah, she made some comments during her testimony that indicated that this was very unusual how it was handled, that it didn't follow the normal patterns, and that the upper level people were much more involved than they normally were, and that it just didn't follow the regular pattern, that things were done differently when it came to Flynn. And so I thought this parting comment here, this testimony by FBI attorney Trisha Anderson ought to keep several corrupt Obama officials up at night. They may want to lawyer up. Well, they've been telling them. I just think that these people believe that they are untouchable. And that's why they go out and they're talking as if nothing ever happened. They're just saying the same stuff. I don't know that they're scared even. I really don't, because I think they're just so delusional at this point that they don't see that they did anything wrong. They think they were doing the right thing for the country. I think they've convinced themselves of that. But anyway, and then here, the Justice Department put out this tweet saying AG Barr will be participating in the nationwide Ask the AG Q&A session on May 1st at 12 noon Eastern Time. Send us your cues on how DOJ is protecting public safety and combating fraud, price gouging, hoarding, and more during the COVID-19 pandemic. Reply below or tweet your question with hashtag AskAGBarr. So there you go, folks. You got your chance. I think it's kind of interesting, some of the questions that are already there. So I think you need to put something in, because you never know what it's going to be. How are they going to choose them? I don't know. I'm pretty sure he's not going to, it's probably not the best thing to ask him who the 17th letter of the alphabet is. But there are a lot of questions you could ask that might be very, very good to ask. So there you go. There's your chance. I'll leave the link down below and you can answer that. And then I thought it was kind of interesting too that Huber here says, what an amazing opportunity to connect with Attorney General Barr. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. Huber's kind of been a decoy in, my opinion here. I think maybe that he was the focus, and he is working, but I think that drew the focus of, the deep state players and everything. That kind of took the heat off of people doing other investigations, including Durham. So, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe that was part of the disinformation. I don't know. But I do think he's doing some work because of some statements he's made and some meetings he's had. And so, anyway, I wanted to show you this because I'm really so sorry for you people if you live in New York City, because your mayor is not doing you any favors right now. And, he's just gone off the deep end. And so this is what he says. Something absolutely unacceptable happened in Williamsburg tonight. A large funeral gathering in the middle of this pandemic. When I heard, I went there myself to ensure the crowd was dispersed. And what I saw will not be tolerated so long as we are fighting the coronavirus. How awful. These people were mourning someone. And he comes in and makes sure they disperse because you just can't do that. I'm almost speechless on this. But I'm even more speechless when I saw this one. And this is going to be a little heartbreaking here, folks. This woman lost a loved one. And evidently the loved one died at home. And there was no one to pick up the body for a long time. There's some bad language in this, but it's well deserved. So here you go.
Mayor de Blasio, and this doesn't make any sense. If you gotta designate somebody to come and get these bodies out of here, these people that die at home, people are dying at home at an alarming rate. How dare you make us have to deal with that? After living there with the body for days. How dare you, Mayor de Blasio? You can't blame that shit on Trump. You can't blame that shit on Cuomo. That's all you, Mayor de Blasio. This is our city. And we're being treated like shit.
Kind of breaks your heart, doesn't it? My heart goes out to the residents of New York City. I don't know what to tell you, folks, but never vote this man in again. Just never vote him in again. You've got to get people to vote differently. And then in another part of the country, we have this going on. Yes, all because her child played with someone else.
Hi, Amy.
Hi.
I'm Deputy Eberhardt with the Sheriff's Department. So, are you aware that we're in a stay-at-home order right now?
Yeah, obviously.
By the government?
Yes, I am aware.
Okay, you're aware of that?
I am aware.
So I don't need to explain that to you?
No, you don't need to explain that to me.
I can if you need me to.
Go. You can because your officer was just here 2 weeks ago.
Okay, do you need me to explain it to you?
And he explained it to me that you guys weren't enforcing that order.
Oh, we're about to.
Okay.
So you understand it though?
Okay, so why are you here?
Because your daughter is going to play at other people's home and you're allowing it to happen.
They were over here as well. So
Okay.
are you here?
They've been talked to
Okay.
about it. So
No,
I'm
I
talking to
understand.
you,
Okay.
and so either you can acknowledge it or you can argue.
I'm
it.
acknowledging it.
Okay, stop having your kid go by other people's home.
Okay, I acknowledge it. Anything else?
Okay, that's only part of it that goes on. And then they demand information from her and stuff. It's just, this is our country. I can't believe that we are in this place. And if you haven't watched the video of the two doctors, it is on BitChute. And don't let the very first part of it throw you, because it was taken down from here. And so you'll need to go there to watch it. But it's well worth watching, and you'll understand why this is insanity, that this stuff is happening here in our country. And there's more to it. I'll get to that in just a minute here when I talk about Omar's little thing. And this is something I think we need to be aware of, because this article right here, the FBI warned about biosecurity risk after Chinese nationals snuck suspicious vials into U.S. So I'm going to leave that. The link is in here, but this researcher had a few things to say about it. So just thought that was very interesting. And then there's more down here. So a very good post to read on that. But yeah, we should be well on alert. The Chinese are definitely not our friends, and we need to be aware of that. And unfortunately, we've allowed them to infiltrate our country far too much, and that should be a problem everywhere. This one was very interesting because one of the researchers on the board had posted that the UN flags were all down. And so this lady went through and she confirmed it. They are gone. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't know why that is, but I think it's very interesting. There's got to be something to it. Why would they all be down? The only thing I could think of was maybe that they don't have the manpower to put them up each day. I don't know if they put them up every day or if they just leave them up. So I know with the United States flag, unless you have lights on it, you're supposed to take it down at night. But I'm assuming there's probably lights here. But anyway, since I don't live there, I don't know what the protocol is. But I'm not sure why they would all be taken down. That just seems strange. And now let's talk about SR. SR is actually the one person who can prove that the whole Russia hoax thing is a hoax. I mean, really, more than it has been. Because we know he's the one that transferred those documents to WikiLeaks. So we understand that. Well, the situation is that there is a case going on right now because some of you know Matt Couch. I believe his website is DC Patriot, I think. And he has put out information about SR and the situation. And he has some people that have given him pretty good information about what happened. And it's definitely not the narrative that has been put out there for everyone. So this case is ongoing because SR's brother, Aaron, decided to take them to court for defamation of character. And so that is what's the court case that's going on. And because of that, I mean, it's been dragging out for quite a while. So, because they've been trying to get at him, Matt Couch. And so it's been going on. They say that the brother says that that this is false to state that he participated in leaking emails, that he received funds, and that he interfered with investigations. He knew the hit was coming, or that he warned his brother, or that he engaged in altercation with Donna Brazil before his brother passed away. So very interesting, I thought, that it mentioned Donna Brazil here and that there was this altercation. Of course, the brother is saying all of that is false, and Matt Couch is saying all of it is true. So that's where it gets into the filing. And down here, you can get the version on Scribd if you want to. So if you go on down here underneath that, it says the defendant is requesting additional information in the case. And that's basically what this whole document is. It's about wanting to issue subpoenas, and a lot of people that they tried to subpoena were not served. They tried to serve them, but they couldn't. And then there were some that refused service, which I didn't know you could refuse service of a subpoena, but I guess that's possible. And then there were some that, because of the coronavirus, they couldn't, get to them to do depositions. And that's pretty much what the document is outlining. But look at this down here. It does mention that some people have already been subpoenaed to provide evidence. And like Michael Isikoff of Steele Dossier fame has been served but refuses to produce documents. Donna Brazil has been served and is providing some documents. And then the FBI, the DNC, and CrowdStrike will be served soon. Some of them they've tried to serve when you go through. You can when you go through the whole thing. But one of the interesting things about this is that in the Mueller report, I don't know where it is. Down here. In the Mueller report, they actually did mention this right here, because it says the office cannot rule out that stolen documents were transferred to WikiLeaks through intermediaries who visited during the summer of 2016. For example, public reporting identified Andrew Mueller Magun as a WikiLeaks associate who may have assisted with the transfer of these stolen documents to WikiLeaks. Yep, buried in there. Now, this back here says it was on page 47, and it is page 47 of the document. When you look at the page numbers down here, but when you're looking at the whole PDF, it's page 55 of the whole PDF. So, it does mention it. Did you know that? It's just amazing. There it is. So, doesn't mention anything about SR by name or anything like that, so people may have skipped over it. But that's what it's talking about. The office cannot rule out that stolen documents were transferred. So here's the court filing here, and it just basically goes through and it lists all the things that they want, the defense wants, and that would be Matt Couch's side and his lawyer. And it talks about what they're trying to prove here, because there really was a transfer of funds of some kind, that the brother ended up with some big bunch of money in his account, and he doesn't really have a good excuse for it. About the same time. So they want emails, they want passwords, but there's a lot of it redacted, folks. A lot of it. But again, if you go through, you can see, and especially once you get further on, you can see all the different stuff that they're asking for specifically. But see, look at this. A lot of it's redacted. So they're talking about Kim.com, that they do want to bring him in. And he has said, he said a long time ago that he was more than willing to, do a deposition on this. But he didn't want to give the information to Mueller, which was probably wise. So anyway, you can go through this. At the very bottom, you start to see all the subpoenas that they want. Here's a list of all the people. This is on page 18. And you can go through and see all the different people and what role they played and why they think that having those people subpoenaed would be a good idea. And of course, because of the virus crisis, it is throwing a big wrench in their plans. Some of it you can't really tell why they want the person. But anyway. And so I'll leave that. You can look through them because it's quite a list. This is page 19 and there's 30 pages. So most of what's left is the different people and whether they've been served. See, multiple attempts at service of Amy Dacey have failed. And so this one, multiple attempts at service of Pratt Wiley have failed. A lot of them have failed. I'm not sure why. They must have bad addresses or something. Anyway, so I wanted to leave that with you because I think some of you are very interested in that particular court case. And then, guess what? The squad is at it again. And now they're proposing a bill that will allow the feds to literally cancel property rights during pandemic. And you may never get them back at this rate. So they make it sound like, it's just so nice because people need to have their rent, they can't pay their rent because they don't have their jobs, and you don't know how long this is going to last, and so we need Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act is what it's called. This guy says it would come dangerously close to the socialist dream of stripping people of the right to control their property and would allow for another massive government expansion. So this bill, introduced April 17th, would cancel all rent and mortgage payments, regardless of income or employment, for the duration of the coronavirus pandemic. The bill would constitute a full payment forgiveness with no accumulation of debt for renters or homeowners and no negative impact on their credit rating or rental history. Notice, it doesn't say anything about the people that own those rental properties. Yeah, so what they're doing is they're sacrificing the landowners for the people that are renting from them. So, yeah, we don't care if we crash and burn those landowners. We don't care about them. Well, wait until you find out why. Furthermore, a fund would be created to fully finance the purchase of private rental properties by nonprofits, public housing authorities, cooperatives, community land trusts, and states or local governments in order to increase the availability of affordable housing during this downturn. Okay, well, what it's not saying there is that in the actual document, the thing is, you would have to, if you wanted to sell your property as a landowner, you would have to allow it to go up for sale to these people first for a, quote, fair market value. Well, yeah, if you've ever had any property taken from you by eminent domain, it's not always as fair market value as it should be, okay? The government's idea of fair market value and yours, not the same, okay? So anyway, that's kind of what would happen there. And then if they decide these, nonprofits, public housing, and all of these people decided they didn't want it, then you could sell it as a private regular sale. It's like, really? And it's kind of crazy because as they go through this, here's the actual document, and it's not written like normal bills are. This isn't usually the format that they use, but it goes through all of this, and it's like, yeah, here are the things that we can do, and everything in this is totally 100% for the renter. And while I understand that, you need to be able to pay your rent, right now, the landowners also have to be able to have some income. I mean, that's their income if you can't have that. And so they're trying to set up a thing so that the landowners could have some kind of government money, but the price they'd pay for taking it would be big. And right here it says, private right of action. Any aggrieved tenant or owner of real property may commence a civil action in an appropriate United States District Court or state court not later than 2 years. So for the next 2 years, this would be hanging over their head, and these tenants or owners could go after property owners like crazy. But the property owners can't go after the tenants. And that's part of it too. Whenever the Attorney General has reasonable cause to believe that a property owner has violated the rights of one or more tenants under the Act, the Attorney General may commence a civil action in an appropriate United States District Court. Any property owner or mortgagee that takes adverse action against any tenant or owner of real property for exercising their right under this Act shall be subject to a judgment for actual damages as well as the following penalties. And those are some pretty stiff penalties there. In any civil action brought under this Act, the court may award preventative relief, including a permanent or temporary injunction or other order to ensure full rights granted by this Act. I'm telling you, and they go into this landlord relief fund. And in this, of course, there is a fund. All landlords who have sustained losses because of rental suspension are eligible to apply to the federal relief fund, including small property owners, family investors, public housing authorities, nonprofits, and cooperatives. HUD shall establish and distribute funds based on a tiered based on assets, revenues, disclosure requirements, profit status. Such a tiered system would give timing priority to nonprofits and those with the least available assets. So if you are somebody who actually makes your living off of rental properties, you are going to be at the very end of the line for this money. So you're not going to be able to make a living off of your property. And the limitations, only occupied units with an existing lease are eligible for relief funds. A landlord cannot receive both replacements, rent payments, and a mortgage payment forgiveness on a single property. So again, double whammy there for the landlords. And so landlords, the requirements. Landlords who receive relief funds through the HUD program must agree to the following fair renting terms for a period of 5 years. Okay? 5 years. Oh, it's just like, Yeah. Okay. So that's the price they have to pay to get this money. They have to have a rent freeze. They can't up any rents. They have to have only just cause evictions, mandatory documentation with any just cause eviction, no source of income discrimination. So if somebody comes to you and they don't have the money to pay the rent, you can't discriminate against them. You have to rent them the place anyway. Coordination with local housing authorities to make new vacancies eligible to voucher holders, provision of 10% equity to tenants, 10% equity to tenants. So you have to give up 10% of your share of the property, your right to own the property. I mean, this will surely not go anywhere. I can't imagine that it would. No admission restrictions on the basis of sexual identity or orientation, gender identity or expression, conviction or arrest record. So if somebody's like got a conviction record, you can't keep them out. Credit history, if they have bad credit history, you still have to rent to them for 5 years. You can't refuse somebody. And immigration status. So even if they're illegal, you still have to rent to them. Additionally, landlords cannot attempt to collect any back rent when the moratorium is lifted. They cannot retaliate in any way against residents, and they cannot report residents to debt collectors or debt services to harm their credit. Recoupment. If any of the conditions of Section 3D are violated, the federal government can recoup the relief funding. So, wow. This is, no, landlords, you get the shaft. I mean, that's just awful. Lender relief fund, and then they go through this. They go through it and they talk about what they have and mortgage lenders, and it's pretty much a similar thing. But then lenders who receive relief funds through the HUD program must agree to a number of fair and inclusive lending terms for a period of 5 years, including yearly reporting of detailed lending data delineated by race, ethnicity, zip code, age, credit score, interest rates, and other loan pricing features. Lenders must also submit yearly detailed data on their office locations, outreach practices, and their referral systems. If the conditions are violated, the federal government can seek to recoup the funding. I mean, seriously, who's going to want to lend anybody money to buy a house? Affordable Housing Acquisition Fund, when they have this, it goes through and it lists that. And again, for a period of 5 years. This first right of purchase here. For a period of 5 years, private rental property owners seeking to sell their property must first notify HUD. HUD will notice the availability to purchase through this acquisition fund. If an eligible purchaser does not come forward and apply to the fund within a period of 60 days, the property owner is permitted to make a private sale. Oh, how nice of you to allow me to sell my own property. Up here I didn't mention this. HUD will establish and administer a fund to facilitate the purchase of private rental property on behalf of low-income housing providers. Congress will appropriate such funds as is necessary for the program. This is just not cool. I really cannot imagine that I can imagine it coming from Ilhan Omar, because this is what they want. And a lot of what we're seeing right now is a huge attempt to turn this country into a socialist country. Because you see, we got the first payment having a month's worth of pay without doing anything. And most people will be like, I just want to get back to my job. I want to earn a living. I just want to keep working. That's what I want. But there are a lot of people who enjoyed getting that money and not having to do a lick of work to get it. So you are going to have trouble getting people to get back. Oh, how do you like this? They have to have democratic control by residents. So I can't, this is just crazy that they have to have democratic control by the residents. Really, you read through this, it is amazing that they expect this to pass. And what's really sad is that it probably will pass the House. just because of the Democrat majority. So, yeah, I wanted to leave you with that. I'm sorry, but, that's what is out there. Now, there are some other things going on. There are people proposing things in Congress, but you can't stop the squad. They're going to try to get in whatever they can right now. So, some people were recommending this video. Yes, I did see it. And he says that they're being forced to dump their food supply. Not necessarily. He actually says that it's being talked about, that it may be something they have to do with the cattle. Now, as for why they're supposedly doing this, again, this is big hype, folks. It is not something that really is being forced upon him. Now, when it comes to vegetables and fruits and things like that, that's a different type of thing, because, when you're growing those, there's a time limit on them, a real pressed time limit to get the food to market and then get it transferred to the grocery stores and everything. So there is a difference with that. But when you're talking about animals, the bigger animals, it's not as time important as the smaller ones. Now, like chickens, if you have chickens and if you raise them to where they're ready to be taken to the processing plant, my dad was telling me today that they have it timed so that they know the exact day that the pin feathers are going to come on. And so they have it timed perfectly to the day when that's going to happen, which I thought was really wow. But that timing is very important for the processing plant with the smaller animals. With the larger animals, a pound or two here and there, a few more days doesn't make as much difference as it does with like a chicken. So I can understand maybe with the chickens, but I hope they're still looking and they haven't actually gotten to that point where they would destroy the animals just because they have no place to take them to process them. But processing a big bunch of animals, big bunch of chickens, it is not something you do in a few minutes. It does require time, and processing plants can only go so fast. Part of the problem that they're having is, even though President Trump signed the executive order, which I talked about in my last video, you still have a lot of people that don't want to put themselves in that situation. So they don't want to go to work because they're afraid that they'll get something. And then you do have some that are getting sick because the other people at work are sick and then they get it from them. So that has happened, and it is a concern, definitely. But all in all, the process needs to go on. So we do probably need to continue having people go in. It might be quite a bit of a reduction in processing for a little while, but I do think that now that states are going to start opening up, it's going to be something where they're going to be able to get back in the swing of things, and everything, the supply process will go more smoothly after that. So I don't know, especially with cattle, again, a few days, a couple, even a month with a cow is not going to be near as bad as a month with a chicken. So you don't have the progress in the tenderness of the meat or something along those lines that you might have with the chicken. There is a problem. I do understand that. But the big question I would ask this man if I got a chance to talk to him is, who's telling you this? Who's telling you that you have to destroy your animals? That's what I want to know. Is it the Department of Agriculture in your state? Is it just people in general just saying, well, you can't sell them, so you got to destroy them? Because if you destroy the amount of animals they're talking about, that's major, because you can't just get rid of them. You've got to either have a rendering company come and get them, which can be very expensive, or you have to bury them yourself. And if you're burying a bunch of cows, that's not going to be fun. So probably not something that they're going to want to do. Now, burying a bunch of chickens, not so bad. But still, even a rendering company, it's going to cost to have them come and pick up that many animals. So I don't know what the solution is. I'm kind of torn on this because I do understand that there might be some problems. There might be a bottleneck going on so that they can't get their animals processed. But I do think that probably it's going to have to work out because we do need the supply coming in. Now, one of the things that this guy mentions is that what was really frustrating to him was that while here they are being threatened that they may have to destroy some of their cows because they can't get them processed, and then in come shipments of beef from, I think he said Namibia or something like that. So why are we importing any meat or different products like this, agricultural products, if our farmers have plenty and we're pouring milk out onto the ground? So that's a big question. We shouldn't be importing anything at this point. We should be using what we have. So I don't know. It's a very good little clip here if you want to watch it. But my question to him is who's telling him? And that I couldn't find. I saw a couple articles, but nobody actually said this is who's saying it. Okay? So anyway, that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.